protocol, the way that they measure kind of, say, supercomputing performance. But what we have here is kind of real world evidence of this as a trend over the last few years. And this, of course, is something that's important because, most companies will tend to look at their APIs and say, okay, I don't care what happens outside the gateway because that's not my domain. But that is the domain of your user, because that's where your user is. Your user is not probably inside your corporate network, or even if they are inside your corporate network, they're not necessarily seeing the performance that you would see in the data center. Where we've had clients in the past who've had issues with their own internal networks. And so, what we see here is a really interesting piece of evidence that, the improvements are in the global, web infrastructure are continuing. That countries like South America, or rather regions like South America, like South Asia, like Africa, that where a few years ago significantly underperforming compared to regions like North America or Europe, are catching up. So there's a lot of evidence that it's no longer the case that you wouldn't necessarily want to put your data center in South America because it's just so slow, even though it's nearer Europe or it's nearer North America than, say, East Asia. You can now host things sensibly in South America, or you can host things sensibly in South Asia. The amount of infrastructure that's been put in there into the data centers in terms of connectivity, is improving all the time. So you get more transoceanic fiber being put in, you get more data centers, you get improvements in the way people are managing things like DNS or TCP Connect, SSL handshake. So all of these things, interact together to bring about these continual improvements. Now, there may be a point at which DNS isn't going to get any faster. One of the things we've always found is that DNS particularly is something, and some extent things like TCP Connect time and SSL handshake time are things that are fast from certain places and slower from other places, other clouds, other regions. And of course, in some cases, there's not really any good reason why they shouldn't be as fast from everywhere as they could be. So there's still a lot of low-hanging fruit that people haven't exploited. So we're still expecting to see over the next few years a continuation in the performance and a continuation in a Moore's law-like improvement in network performance over the next, say, 3 to 5 years. There might come a point eventually where the physics does mean that you just can't get any faster because the speed of light is finite, or you can't get any faster because there's a limit fundamentally to how fast you're going to be able to switch things in your data center. But we expect the trends to continue, particularly as less developed areas improve their infrastructure. So we're expecting areas like not just Southern Africa, but places like Eastern Africa, Western Africa, to get a lot more data centers, a lot more connectivity,